Spencer Rattler, like steal the draft. Freaking Daniel Kelly over here.
Yeah, my hero said that. Daniel Kelly himself. We should get him on.
Oh no.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Draft Vogel.
With the first pick in the 2021 NFL Draft. The first pick in the 2022 NFL Draft. With the first pick in the 2023 NFL Draft.
The sickest NFL Draft Show. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome into the Sick Podcast with Draft Vogel. I'm John Vogel, joined today by the co-hosts Justen Gamble, Mark Jarvis. As always, and gentlemen, we got the combine to get into. But first off, how's everybody doing tonight?
I'm feeling it, Marky.
I don't have caffeine for this episode, so I might be a little bit out of it.
Oh, no.
You run out of Keurig pods or what?
Huh?
You run out of Keurig pods or what happened?
No. Well, you always see me drinking out of the cans. It's V8 Energy.
Yeah.
Those things are the best. But yes, I'm trying to cut back a little bit more drinking early or late night caffeine. So we'll see how it goes. I might go back to my old ways very quickly.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Right now, I'm on caffeine. No, I'm on caffeine like all day.
That's
day,
what I mean
day.
to Mark. Like, give it up. Just go back to the caffeine. It's never worth it to stop. I've tried to.
One day in, give up on it.
One day. Yeah, there's worse.
We've got so many grades to get through too. Like it's like you just might as well just stay up till 1. I'm staying up till like 1, 2 every morning. I don't know about you guys, but like.
Yeah, I've been up late.
Got a lot of grades.
Yeah, and now that we get all the combine info, it's like it's time to go back and rewatch everything you've already watched to see if your perceptions have changed, if anything looks different now. It's like it's the cool part of the season though, where you kind of know what you're watching and you want to kind of do that whole recheck thing. So I'm having a blast, especially with the receivers. The receiver group was insane.
Yeah,
so going back and watching all those guys
too. Yeah, that's exactly what I've been doing. I've been having to go through all the wide receivers, and
yeah. But
hey, let's get into this combine stuff, guys, because reactions. I think first off, it was a pretty fun combine this year. Marky, you got the opportunity to get there in person for a couple days. Did you end up meeting with anybody? Whoever, because I think we were talking about that.
Yeah, I met with some people. I'm not gonna say publicly. We can talk about it after the show, but for the most part, I went. I was down there. I got there Wednesday night, and then Thursday was the first day of the drills. So I was there Wednesday, Thursday, and then came home Friday. So I ended up getting to watch the drills and all that on Thursday, but I didn't get to see it live or anything in the stadium or anything. It's very much when you go to the combine, it's very much a networking event on the media side and for people like us. So I spent a lot more time kind of rubbing elbows than paying attention to media interviews and stuff like that.
It's easy to rub elbows there, man. With everybody there, it was awesome. Love that event.
Oh, you just walk around the convention center. It's like you're bumping into scouts left and right, and
that's all you have to do.
Packed.
The really nice thing is when you get the credentials, you can kind of go past that little corner on the straightaway that takes you all the way down to the stadium. Yeah. That's the fun area to go hang out because you just I'll just sit up in a chair right there. And I'll just sit there until somebody walks by that I know. And I'm like, hey, how's it going, man? That's just – next thing you know, you're bumping elbows left and right. Next, somebody else comes walking that you know. And it's always in, like, these conglomerate groups where it's, like, the same type, I don't know. It's how it always worked for me. And the players come walking by because the gym's right there. Like,
right.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, I would have tried to brush Sam Hartman's hair or something cool like that.
Dude, oh, my goodness. All right, so – takeaways. Let's start with you, Gam. Was there anybody that stood out? Anybody that surprised you at the combine this year?
The whole receiver group, the whole offensive line group, which is pretty much what we thought going into it, right? Like those were the deep classes with a ton of first rounders, and then, I can't really say they disappointed at all. Like watching all the drills, the way everything that you could have hoped for kind of happened. There's too many. Honestly, I was kind of hoping the receiver group would disappoint a little bit because now we have this like whole group of dudes who are 6 feet plus, running 4.45 or sub, and you're like, how do I separate Tez Walker and Troy Franklin and Brian Thomas and A.D. Mitchell? It's it's cool because, you know, it's rare that we get this many great players and great testing, measurable, whatever. But now it's like, people are asking me, like, where do you think this guy go? Where do you think this guy? I have no clue. I don't know. I'm like, someone asked me, where do you think Tez Walker goes? I said, late 1 or early 4. Like, I don't know. I don't know how teams are going to separate them. I don't know what's going to happen. I got the question in a group chat the other day. Hey, what do you think the order is of, you know, the O linemen? I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Roll some dice and it doesn't matter. Like, there's no way to know. We know there's going to be 6-7 first rounders, but I don't know who's going where. But it does make a lot of tape work now. A lot of tape work of just checking what we've already seen, and like I said, just trying to figure out if you were right or you thought this guy was a sub 4.4 guy and he wasn't, or vice versa. So this is where we kind of make our money and do the real work.
Jarvis, anybody stand out to you?
It feels like every year there's like at least one QB who I don't know how they tested like they tested. A couple years ago, it was Cole McDonald running like a 4.5 something, and this year is Slovis running a 4.5.
Keaton Slovis, yep.
Yeah.
I would not have in a million years imagined that he would run a 4.55. And you could probably, I mean, I don't know if we want to get on the negative side here, but Radler running a 4.95. I know, John, you thought he was going to be a little bit further up there in terms of the testing. So I don't know if you want to touch on these QBs at all, or.
Well, look, I'm not going to put a lot of stock into Spencer Rattler's 40-yard dash. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I did think he was a little bit better of an athlete. I do wonder if he carries his pads better, you know, because you kind of see him moving and he looks like he's running a little bit faster than 4.95. Especially when he's in those scramble drills, when you see him pull away from, you know, linebackers at times that he probably shouldn't be pulling away from if he's got a 4.95. So it might be a pad level thing with him where he just carries them better than other people. And that's the other thing that's kind of funny about this whole process with the combine, and we're getting all these raw numbers and everything else. I try not to put a ton of stock into him, you know, personally, just because those numbers can be so deceiving at times. You know, it's kind of like I'm trying to think. So Keon Coleman runs a 4.61, right?
Yeah.
But he had the fastest mile per hour speed running through the gauntlet than anybody else did.
Or just watch him in the gauntlet versus Troy Franklin in the gauntlet. It was like they're playing two different sports.
Right.
Like, that was insane, you know.
It's kind of like this whole 40-yard dash thing is almost subjective, which, you know, obviously I was wrong. I thought that Keon would come out there and run a 4.45. He looked like he was running a 4.45 going through the gauntlet. But that's what I'm talking about. It's like there's so many subjective things here that the raw data can point to one thing, and then you're kind of like, well, that's not make a lot of sense. I mean, I went through, you know, Blake Corum today, right? Blake Corum ran a 4.53, 4.54,
yeah, something like that. Yeah,
4.53.
Yeah. So like, I mean, Gam, you talked about, you're like, oh, I don't see any pull away speed or anything there. 4.53 is not great.
Yeah,
but I mean, that's flying. That's a lot faster than I think you were expecting him to run.
I said mid 4.5s. I mean, I think he's got burst, but a guy that short, he came in at under 5.8. So just like Bucky Irving, I was like, you know, and I think he ran 4.55. Mm-hmm. At that size, you can only be so fast. Like it's just physics. There's no way you're going to hit the 4.4s, you know, for the most part being that short. So those two guys are those little guys, you know, those short strides and the ability and like in tight areas to kind of pull away from people that need to get that runway for their speed. Those two have the burst, but I never really felt like I saw them pull away from anybody down the field. And that's because like Keon probably runs a faster 60 than a lot of those guys do, because those big strides add up over time. You know what I mean? But in the 40, it's like, yeah, he's got to get going. And Keon's 40 isn't great when you look historically. I don't know if you guys saw, what's his name? Scott Barrett, I think, on Twitter, put out that graph of like guys who have been drafted in the first 3 rounds that ran 4.6 or slower, and some other, I forget what other condition there was, but it was like JJ Arcega-Whiteside, Kelvin Benjamin, basically a bunch of busts, a bunch of bad receivers that did nothing in the NFL, which sucks because it kind of means that Keon's going to have to be an outlier. But I mean, do you bet against your own eyes? I think we all are pretty high on Keon as far as like that's a ball player, and he looks like a small forward playing basketball or playing football. He moves like it. He goes up and gets the ball like it. The coordination's insane. I think, like I said, this is that part where do you bet against your own eyes or do you trust these combine numbers that can be pretty misleading? So with him, it's just tough because you're watching this insane football player, but the numbers don't look great. But like I said, like Troy Franklin's gauntlet, you can see that's a guy that doesn't catch the football confidently. He doesn't move. He doesn't attack the ball well. It's a lot different than watching a much slower guy in Keon. So who do you bet on? I mean, I'm taking Keon every day. But that's just me. But that's the work the scouts have to put in now, and it's going to be tough for these teams to try and separate all these guys. So.
Well, and 2, we got pro days coming too, so we can still. Keon might go to his pro day and run a 4.51.
Right? Misleading numbers. School season where the schools put out all the great numbers for their guys.
This is why you wait. You wait. I
wait until I see what Hitterman puts up, and then we'll go from there.
Oh man, this is
either tough. Him or get somebody who was there to tell you what happened. That was in the scouts huddle as they were getting the numbers and sharing the numbers. Somebody that was there.
I remember I went to CU Colorado's pro day a few years. I think it was the what was the safety named Thompson? I forget his first name. He was on Tedrick Thompson. I believe it was him, and I think he ran like 4.65 or something. And I remember being at the pro day with a ton of scouts, and we all timed like 4.6 something or 4.7s, high 4.6, and then they released it for his pro day, like the numbers on Twitter, and they were like 4.61 and 4.58, and I was like, that was not that was not what he ran, dude. I don't know who released that number, but the school, did him a favor there, and so this is that other part.
Agents do their clients a favor sometimes too,
Find the absolute highest number you possibly can, then maybe nudge it up a little bit more.
Yeah.
The guy who ran 4.7, he actually ran 4.51.
Yeah.
Remember Kyle Hamilton a few years ago?
Oh yeah,
he ran like the 4.75 at his pro day, and they were like, "Oh yeah, 4.54." It was like, what?
Yeah, that was awesome because I remember Twitter was up in arms, like, "Who do we trust?" And it was wild.
Not the school.
Yeah,
not the school.
Well, again, but that proves right there, though. 40s, depending on the position, is not that relevant. I know for corner historically, it's a huge deal, but for these safeties, like Kyle Hamilton's one of the best safeties in football right now, and you can say he's borderline a weak side linebacker, but his speed has not been a huge downfall for him for the role that he's in. Cam Chancellor was the same way, and they're in similar roles. Like depending on the position, you can kind of throw out some of these numbers and say, not that relevant. Running back, same thing. I think the most important thing, I don't know about you, I know John, we've talked about this, like body types is a huge part of the combine, and that's what we're studying. I got a text during the combine when the O-line were going, and a buddy of mine said, I can't put Fuaga anymore as my O-line 1 just based on that body. I'm like, yeah, he's built hilariously. I really thought a guy that big and kind of sturdy was going to have a better butt. And I remember thinking in his pads, like, I don't love his body type, but maybe in shorts and a T-shirt, he'll look a little better. I think he looked worse. So I don't know how teams are going to kind of balance that, but I do know a lot of these old school scouts put a lot of hype and a lot of they really care about what these guys' bodies look like, ankle size, knee size, frame, the size of their hips, like how wide they are. So some of these guys looked past that, getting off the bus test. It looked fantastic, but there were some bodies that I was like, oh, that's different than I thought he looked like in pads. But Xavier Worthy's one of them. I knew he was skinny, but holy crap, 165 pounds. Yeah. He was built. He's thin. There's no getting around how thin that kid is.
So I'll give you somebody. I'm going to go back to the first day of the combine and somebody that really stood out to me and tested a whole lot better. And I've been talking about him really the entire process, going back to since he transferred to Florida State. But Braden Fisk, man, holy cow!
You've been on that train for a long time.
I have, and he was at Western Michigan, and it was really easy to see, like, okay, he's best defensive lineman in the MAC, and it wasn't really even that close. Then he goes to Florida State, and then you kind of get some of those like last minute jitters where you're kind of like, well, did he transition well enough at Florida State? Is he really that athletic? Is he a little bit slow? Well, he comes in at 292, just over 6'3.5, and he puts up a 4.78 40. 33 and a half vertical, 26 bench press reps too. But I mean, just running through the drills, he was insanely quick. And there was that field view, I think the NFL put it out, where he was running through, he took a 90-degree turn through after going through a couple bags. And I mean, that dude was flying.
Yeah.
Like, it was terrifying. And I was like, whew. I mean, Braden Fisk just made himself a lot of money, dude. Like, that guy, guy looked awesome.
And you think, I remember you told me about him, dude, it was a long time ago. And I was like, all right, white dude, probably short arm, comes from Western Michigan. Like, what can he really
he's got
do?
short arms. They're like 31 inches. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know. And then I watched him the past few months and I was like, he's pretty good. I don't know if I see round 1. I don't think he'll go there. And the arms, you can tell on tape, the arms are a factor. But I'm like, he's good. And then he goes to the combine and I'm like, all right, John was onto something. This kid's pretty legit. So,
you know what? I had the chance to sit down and talk with him too at the Senior Bowl. The one thing I think that I do a little bit differently than most media is, you know, you're not going to see me post pictures with all the people that I've met or repose and like, hey, look at that. Because I just feel like when you ask a dude for a picture, hey, can I get a picture with you? You're like cutting off the relationship right there. Because it's like, oh, you just trying to get something out of me, trying to get some clout. Yeah. I want to sit down. I want to have conversations with these dudes. I want to build relationships with them. And Braden was a guy, you know, that I was trying. We built a relationship before the season even started, the 23 season. So I've got the opportunity to sit down with him for probably about a half an hour the Friday of the Senior Bowl and just talk ball, talk life, talk all those different things. And I mean, this guy's intense.
Yeah.
And I was telling him, I was like, dude, I said, your tape screams like Detroit Lions. Like, it just would make all the sense in the world to go. And then even talking to you now, it's like your mentality screams Detroit Lions. Like, yeah. I don't know what we got to do to get you there. He's like, that Pittsburgh or Baltimore? I'm like, yeah, exactly. See, we're on the same page here. You know, we're seeing the same type of vision. But he's a lot smarter than people realize. He really understands the game, really understands his craft. And the one thing that he kind of can do with his short arms to counter that is he really knows how to stay intense with his hands. I think his placement's pretty good when he attacks as well.
There's a pad level thing that he gets that most guys don't get either.
That's the thing. It's when he came in at 6'3", I was surprised.
Yeah, I was too.
Because he looks like he's playing smaller than that. You know,
I thought 6 foot 6'1". I was like,
yeah,
there's no way he's that tall. And then 6'3". I was like, gee, he really stays low.
He'll be listed at 6'4" because he's 6'3" and 5/8. You know, so he'll be listed 6'4".
Ooh.
Yeah. And he kind of reminds me of Dean Lowry in the sense of
I had a feeling you might
Dean plays real low and attacks and you know has that athletic ability to his game. I don't think he's quite the athlete that Braden is, but he's got that same type of, you know, play style where it's high intensity, high motor, get after the, you know, just disrupt. And that's, you know, like I think I told him that too after the Senior Bowl. I was like, dude, I said, have you watched any Dean Lowry? Oh, I'm gonna get right on that, man. That's your guy right there. You want to see what you can take away from him.
Yeah. He's got a lot of burst up field, which is great to see him in the 4.78 or whatever really put it in perspective. So I think funny transition here. Another white guy that really looked fantastic at the combine that shocked everyone. Dude, Ladd McConkey and a 4.39 at 6 feet. First off, I thought he was going to be 5'10", and I thought he would run like a 4.46. But 6 feet, actually 6 feet, and running a 4.39 is wild. Some of the comps I've seen thrown around are a little intense because I don't think he's that loose of an athlete. As like I saw the Antonio Brown comp rolling around.
Yep,
Brown was different. Brown's body, he was dribbling out there. You know what I mean. But Ladd, I think he needs to clean up some of his. I question whether he can track the ball deep, which is unusual. Usually, guys that seem really savvy in their play style and kind of cerebral. I feel like that's something they do well. I think he had some weird drops, tracking the ball deep. Like he just, first off, made himself a ton of money. And I also think that teams aren't going to look at him like, he's that guy that we can put in the slot and he'll be reliable. Like you might get some field stretch out of him. You might get some legitimate like takeoff routes where, you know, you can throw him slants over the middle. These routes that are meant to be caught and taken. Could be that guy now. He's that guy where he's legit fast. It wasn't an illusion on tape. He's legitimately a 4.39 guy. Someone texted me this and said, Comps are weird because he's surprisingly fast, runs solid routes, has good run after catch ability. I don't feel the explosiveness when it comes to burst and change of direction like some of the names that get thrown around. He's got balance and an ability to set people up and use angles, but most guys that use those things don't run 4.38. So he was kind of saying, like, look, he's faster than a lot of the guys that do the same thing he does, but he still has to do those things because he's probably not as loose and insane of an athlete as some of these other guys who he's going to get comped to. But, I mean, you kind of meet that in the middle, and that's a solid player. If he goes late one, wouldn't be shocked. I mean, someone's going to get a second rounder out of Ladd, and I think he's going to be a wide receiver 2, maybe 3. Like, he can be part of a real committee that's just dangerous. That's just straight up dangerous with the ball.
The only thing that I would say to that about the explosion is I think he is explosive. It's just it's harder to see on tape because when you watch him pull off some of these double moves and stuff, he had this route I think that Jim Nagy pointed out against Ole Miss where he pulled. I mean, he's so crazy quick in and out, because efficient. He's starting. Yeah. Right. It's very efficient. That's a great word to use for that because when he hits that break, that first step to change his direction, I mean, it's instant. Yep. He's already going. He's at full speed. And so the explosion that you normally see when a guy gets down and poof, he explodes out of the break, like you don't see that with him because he just doesn't need to use it. Does that make sense? Like
it does.
I think he's just natural.
I think he's a lot like Xavier Leggett, though, in the fact that they're good athletes and they're explosive, but they're a little linear. And that's okay. They're not Justin Jefferson, Antonio Brown types where they're just like eels slithering around people and doing crazy stuff, but they are explosive. They just need to be a little more efficient. But if they stay that way, if they stay kind of fundamentally sound, they're fast as hell. And Xavier Leggett, another guy who ran in the freaking 4.3s at his size.
4.3 guys.
Oh my, yeah. I mean, at his size too, and the way he runs routes. Just someone texted me yesterday. I've been doing a lot of networking.
I'm texting here. Wow. Holy cow.
I mean, like I said, I've been watching tape, talking ball and everything, but someone said he runs routes like the defender's not even there. And I kind of respect him for it. And it didn't really work in the Senior Bowl. I think that he's like the rare guy in the Senior Bowl who wasn't winning one-on-one as a receiver. And usually we see the receivers just toasting the corners. But I think he's still learning to kind of set them up and read them. Been so big and so physical and so strong, it's almost like he didn't need to rely on that on tape a lot. He was just running as if no one else was on the field, and it kind of worked. But I'm sure he'll get better at that in the NFL. But I mean, at that size and that strength, running 4.3s, that is absolutely insane. Another guy that if he goes late one, not shocked. If he goes round 3, like a lot of analysts have him, also not shocked. But I think you got to roll the dice on a guy like that and that package of skills and traits probably a little earlier than you think.
Maybe the deal with Leggett is, like he only played a year, really.
Yeah.
Now he had certain games that he popped, right? Because we talked about that on here too, where I remember specifically that Duke's Mayo Bowl when they played North Carolina 21. Yeah. He absolutely exploded in that game, as did Jaheim Bell, but he exploded in that game. And I think they had like a third string quarterback who was a super redshirt senior or something that was started the season as a grad assistant coach and came in and like 6 games in the season, they were like, hey, we need a quarterback. Would you come back and play quarterback? Because he had a year of eligibility remaining or something. But I remember him exploding in that game, and he really popped, and then doesn't play the whole next year until they play their bowl game against Notre Dame, and then he's exploding again. And you're sitting there going, what the heck? Like, where has this guy been? Why has he not played those years? And we've talked about that on the show. I know we have.
Yeah.
And so I think that when it comes to pacing your routes and setting up people, so for it to win those one-on-ones, that's what he's still trying to figure out. It's just lucky for him. You got 25 offenses this year that are projected to be running, full-on West Coast style offenses that use what? Route combinations that scheme you open. I mean, he's going to be really good at that. So yeah, I think maybe sometimes we put a little bit too much into the one-on-ones, if that makes sense. And say, this guy, he struggles to win one-on-one. It's like, well, does he really have to? Because you watch some of these route combinations that the Shanahans and the McVays are cooking up that they're running. I mean, they're clearing it for you. All you have to do is get through the break, and you're going to have 2-3 yards of separation, right, with that type of athletic ability. So
yeah, he's going to be. I was going to ask you guys, Mark, I wanted your input on this too. So Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr. projected to probably go in receiver group 1 and 2 in either order. Neither of them test. Did Malik Neighbors measure? I know Harrison measured.
No, he did not.
Okay, so Neighbors did nothing. Harrison measured in. We found out he has short arms, which is kind of funny. Because then everyone was like, well, he's going to be a huge outlier. I'm like, is that a big outlier if it's just arm length? But anyway, neither of them run, measure. What do you make of that? Because in my opinion, I'm like, all right, I think Neighbors was fine. I don't know why he didn't, but I'm like, I know he would have tested crazy. Harrison Jr., I don't doubt that he probably would have tested pretty good at most stuff. But is this the class where it was almost like, you probably don't want to test. You don't want to compare your numbers to this group because it doesn't matter how good your tape was. Like when we put you on paper, you might be like the 12th, 13th, 15th best receiver in this group. And it doesn't matter, if we know you're better than everybody, it's just not you just don't want to do that. Sometimes less, like no info is better than bad info, or you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. What do you make of this group and like with him not testing it? Is it good for him? Is it bad for him? How does that work?
I was actually going to ask you the question of if Mitchell, Worthy, or Thomas could jump into this top 3 and jump one of these top 3 receivers of Odunze, Neighbors, and Harrison. If one of these guys can somehow get in there.
I don't think Worthy can at 165. I mean, yeah, that's just insane. Like
even with the 4.21, no dice.
I can't see it.
No, because I mean, let's say he runs 4.28. It's the same thing. Like you can only be so fast because we can't just run deep every play. and you're still 165 pounds, so it's only so functional. Whereas Mitchell and Brian Thomas coming in at 6'4", running in the 4.3s and each over 200 pounds, that's insane. I think either one of those two guys, for my money, I would probably pick Thomas. But I think either of those two guys could jump into that top 3 and either bounce. I mean, I don't know. We've heard forever that Marvin Harrison Jr. is a lock, but I'm wondering after the pro day if there's some red flags to teams, whether it's the arm length, let's say he runs 4.50. Let's say he runs 4.49. Now you're comparing a 4.49 guy with shorter arms to these other freaks that are also 6'4" that are running 4.3s. Like, how do you, as a GM and decision maker, make that call? And I mean, it might sound stupid to most people. They're like, well, just pick the guy who had great tape, Marvin Harrison Jr., whatever. But I mean, these are aliens that he's testing against.
That's what I was gonna say. Is it's almost like even for a pretty outstanding class, it seems like these guys are just a tick or two above where we normally see. Normally, you see like a Brian Thomas type, and you're like, oh, he's gonna be like a high 4.3s, low 4.4s. It's like, oh, he ran 4.33.
Yeah,
AD Mitchell. It's like, oh, he's probably in that same bucket. And
he ran
4.34.
210. Yeah.
So much for a slow track, huh?
Right. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It's like if I'm Marvin Harrison Jr., I'm like, holy shit.
If I'm a 4.5s guy, I'm not doing anything. You're not comparing me to these guys. I'm a football player. That's what I'm focused on. If I'm Neighbors and I run like mid 4.4s and I have to go out there after Thomas ran a 4.33, I might even be like, I'm just gonna skip. Measure me. That's fine. But
Well, so in the case, what's interesting about Neighbors, because Neighbors and Jaden Daniels both declined to be measured. So the reason that they gave was that they want to bring more attention to their teammates at LSU, and so they'll measure in there. That was the official reason, right? Which, in theory, that's not a terrible idea. You got 2 top 10 picks. Everybody's going to show up there because now they're going to get the measurables. They're going to watch you work out, all that stuff. So I can kind of see that, right? But at the same time, it's a good point that you guys are bringing up about these guys. These guys are testing against crazy athletic types. And you don't want to be that guy that runs the 4.42 as a top 10 pick, when you got all these dudes out here running 4.3s and even 4.2s, so I could kind of see that. The thing I do think in the case of Marvin Harrison Jr., you got 2 guys right now that don't have agents in this class that are projected to go top 10. And that's Caleb Williams and it's Marvin Harrison Jr. Now they have managing teams, so that are running, that are helping them make these decisions and stuff that will probably partner with some agency to get the actual contract done. But once that time rolls around. But right now, they don't have agents. They've got guys that are just basically advising them on what they should be doing. And then you've got Caleb not opting in and choosing not to work out, choosing not even do the medicals, which was wild.
I kind of respect that. He's like, why do you need it? Nah, leave me alone. I kind of like it.
First overall pick, apparently, and that's where he's going to go. So he says, hey, I'll do the medicals for the team that's going to draft me.
Yeah. Like, suck it, Kansas City. You're not touching me. I don't know. I'm just like, I don't. His response was like, they don't need it. Like, yeah, I get that. I don't know. I don't know if it was just like, it's going to be a waste of time. It's annoying. Like, I don't know. But I kind of agree.
The only thing that I could take away from it was the deal's done. Like, he already knows where he's going.
Right.
Like it's already done.
Yeah.
So if you've got the guarantees, hey, we're taking your first overall, this is just going to go through the process. And when the day comes, you're going here. I can kind of see that. So if I'm a media person, I'm trying to be smart about seeing where he's going. I need to figure out where his top 30 visits are. Is he going to go to Chicago or is he going to go to Washington? Or is it somebody else that's totally out of the mix right now? Because I think Chicago has to sell the fact that they're interested in Caleb Williams if they want to move the pick to Washington at 2. Otherwise, Washington's just going to sit there and wait for Caleb to come to them. And I think that there's a really good chance that Chicago doesn't take Caleb Williams.
I think you're insane, but you know that already. I don't know. We'll see. It's ridiculous. Like this is
they've got to either sell to Washington that they're going to take Caleb, or they got to sell to Washington that they're going to trade the pick to somebody else. That's what they got to do, and that's assuming. I think Washington wants Caleb. I think they want him bad.
I think every team wants Caleb. I mean, that's not a mystery. I feel like it's such a done deal that Chicago's taking him. So, but who knows?
I guess we'll see.
Hopefully they do.
We will see.
Yeah.
Last guy that I definitely have to shout out, interviewed on the show here, Dylan Laube. What a hell of a performance.
Ooh, yeah.
Dylan made himself a little bit of money too. So talking to him at the Senior Bowl, he told me he was going to run sub 4.6 for sure. He was going to try to get under 4.5. Now the official number, I believe, is 4.54.
Beautiful.
The hand time was 4.48.
Who's hand time?
Yeah.
About 8 NFL teams. I got the Raiders at 4.46. So
I don't think it matters with him. I mean, he's Danny Woodhead. He's awesome. He can do anything. He's going to be awesome no matter where he goes. Like he's going to make a roster. He's going to make a 53-man, and they're going to get him on the field just because he does everything and he does it well. Like he's
put him in the slot.
He's crazy. Yeah, I cannot believe how good that kid is at football. So I honestly wasn't even interested in his performance at the combine because I'm like, I don't think it matters. Like he's going to go somewhere and be so good, and they're going to be like, we got to get him on the field. He's going to be one of our 11 guys out there for the most part all the time. So.
Hey, I just had to shout him out. Infectious personality, great guy, awesome guy. He's going to be awesome in the NFL.
Cooked you in Mobile. He cooked you.
He absolutely did.
In your boots. In your boots.
Yeah, in my army boots and my blue jeans, baby. Yeah, it was a good time. And I knew he was going to cook me. I just wanted to see it. I wanted to see what it looked like. So that was fun. That was a fun time. I can verify that his feet are insanely fast.
Yeah,
I was just starting to react to the inside step when he was already passing me on the other side. Like I didn't know what hit me.
Hey, he did that to D1 athletes too. So
hey, he did it. So Smith Wade over there from Washington State was locking everybody down in his little jam technique. He couldn't put hands on this guy.
Yeah.
That's saying something. He's going to be really good. He's going to be a really good route runner. He's going to kill him from the slot too. So,
real quick, what's one name from each of you guys? What's one player that? How do I put this? Not made the most money, but he moved up the most spots just from the combine. Like let's say he was going to be picked 95, whatever, and you're like, this guy, he moved up the most. Like this is the guy who did the most.
Fisk. I think Fisk went from like early 3rd round to we're talking early 2nd round. Like he boosted himself that much.
Man, I'm terrible with these types of questions. Do you have a guy you got in mind, Gam? I'm sitting looking at all the combine numbers, so I'll have a guy for you here.
I think for me, and I don't even, he might not be covered the most ground, but I think Troy Fautanu, the left tackle from Washington, probably, I was seeing him mocked a lot of like late round one, but to go from late round one to possibly a top 10 pick now, you would have thought he was a linebacker. If someone told me that's a linebacker out there, I would have said, yeah, okay, he's a big ass linebacker, but that's a linebacker. Came in with long arms, 34-inch arms, I believe, same as Joe Alt, who's 6'9". And all his drills were, just absolutely insane. And he's got butt, he's got leg, he's got like the proportionate body, the way he changes directions, and the way he was running, and he can bend, and and on tape, the way he can win so many ways in pass protection. I thought his tape was absolutely crazy. For my money, that's a top 10 pick in every single draft I've ever seen. That's Rashawn Slater, Tristan Wirfs type movement. So I think he went from top 25 pick to, if he goes number 9 to the Bears, or maybe a little, I don't even know, higher up, whatever. I think that's my pick right there, just because you don't see offensive linemen move that well every day.
2 points. One, yeah, that's great. And he did move really well, but he is 6'3" and a half. How many tackles do you know are at 6'3" and a half? So does he stay tackle, or does he move to guard?
I wouldn't be mad if a team moved him to guard. I don't think height is the big problem at tackle. I think it's arm length more than anything. Like Joe Alt coming in at 6'9", that's a bad thing. That's a bad thing.
Well, yeah, but there's not many. There's like 3 or 4 tackles in the league that are actually playing tackle that are under 6'5" right now.
Right. Like I said,
having just gone through all the data myself here in the last couple of weeks. The other thing is, shout out to Garrett Greenfield, NFL record, combine record, 38.5-inch vertical for an offensive lineman. Absolutely insane.
That's wild. That is wild.
What do you weigh in that? Oh, 311. He can get up 38.5 inches. Like, whew, golly.
What do you do with
White
that?
boys can jump, Jagam. White boys can jump. All right, what you got, Jarvis?
All right, I'll go Garendo, the running back from Louisville. Knew he would be a tester, right? But because he has the track background, but still 4.33 at 221 is absurd. I was really disappointed we didn't get Tyler Owens, because I figured Tyler Owens, all the hype was he's going to run 4.2s and this and that. He's like 6'3", 220, something like that, or 215 with 33-inch arms. We already knew they're huge. Miles Cole and Eric Watts, but running, it's like 6'6", 270 apiece, running, 4.67 each is pretty impressive. And then one more thing I would throw out there too is, you mentioned that aspect of, well, usually over, at tackle, you got guys that are bigger than 6'4", right? But most tall guys tend to have longer arms. Most short guys tend to have shorter arms. So they're just a smaller sample size of guys that are, 6'3", that even have the length to play tackle. I do think it's interesting though, because I think there is an element of guys that are really short at tackle. Their pass sets tend to be a little bit more condensed. They can't really cover as much ground with them. I don't know if you feel that way about him, but I think that's just something worth throwing out.
Those are very good points, Marky.
Thank you. I had 20 minutes to think about them.
Yeah, Mark sits. You just sit over there quietly, like, do I need to supply you with some cigars or something? Be our AJ Hawk over here, just quietly sitting there, just the entire show. Just
and then you just bust out smart stuff for us to build on. It's just, that's really smart. I didn't think of that. I appreciate it.
Would you even smoke a cigar if I were to get
Probably not. No.
Yeah.
Dang. Did you smoke a cigar when your daughter was born?
No, I don't think I've ever smoked a cigar.
Oh man, we gotta get you cultured, man.
We gotta visit you where are you at? Alaska,
Ohio. Same difference.
Siberia.
Places I don't want to visit. Sorry, Mark.
Ohio's not that bad.
Gentlemen, we're getting close to the 40-minute mark, and that's going to about do it for today. But that's our combine reaction episode. So make sure that you follow Gam at Gam Scout. Make sure you follow Jarvis at Jarvis Scouting. You follow me at Draft Vogel. Follow the show at Sick Pod NFL Draft. Until next time, Shane, let's get us out of here.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Draft Vogel on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.